So this is the long awaited follow-up and sequel to 2000's Gladiator, which of course starred Russell Crowe as General Maximus, the story of a general betrayed who became a slave, became a gladiator, rose up through the ranks to challenge the Emperor of Rome. Huge epic in the year 2000. I remember it was a moment of we are so back. The movies are back, baby, because that movie was huge. It was so successful. I remember seeing it in theaters. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was quoting it. And it ushered in a new era of sword and sandal epics. We got Kingdom of Heaven a few years later. We got Troy. It really revitalized that genre. It won Best Picture. Russell Crowe won Best Actor for that role, even though that's not really his best role in the film. So huge thing. And this has had several kind of gestations to try to make a sequel. At one point, there was a script floating around called Gladiator Christ Killer, where Russell Crowe, even though he had died in the first film, he was like being reincarnated and was involved with Jesus Christ and also wars throughout the centuries and culminated with Russell Crowe in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Like totally wacky script by Nick Cave. That was all eventually abandoned. And what we have now, Ridley Scott came together with David Scarpa, with who he worked on Napoleon with, to bring us this new script following. And we'll get into the story now. Lucius, played by Paul Mescal, who's the son of Lucilla in the first film. He's a young boy in the first film. Now he's a grown man. He's living in North Africa. Their city is attacked by the Romans. He's taken prisoner. It is kind of a rehash of the first film. He's taken prisoner, becomes a slave, becomes a gladiator, rises up through the ranks to challenge the emperors and the people that be. It changes a little bit more in that it tries to be a little bit more about the corruption of Rome, where we meet Denzell Washington's Macrinus, who's a very wealthy person based on a real life person that we all know and love in real life, who also wants to be around power and is scheming and backstabbing, and he's just doing a great job. It also features Pedro Pascal as General Acacius, who's not quite in the film enough. Connie Nielsen returns from the first film, and we have Joseph Quinn as one of the two kind of crazy twin emperors. We have a lot of action, a little bit of romance. Again, Sword and Sandal is back with some changes from the first film. A lot going on, lots to talk about. Zach, what do you think?
I think Gladiator 2 is more of a it's more of a vibes movie. It's more of a vibes movie than like a substance movie. And it's a shame because it's a great looking movie, dude. Ridley Scott can do Sword and Sandal so good. We covered Napoleon last holiday. He did a fantastic job in that. Not Sword and Sandal, but historical epic no less. And like returning to the time of gladiatorial combat, like it's a little, you wonder if the man still got it. Is he going to bring it back in the same way that Gladiator did? Is it going to be the same energy? And the energy, I think, is the same. But the script's kind of weak. And like our lead, Paul Mescal, like kind of didn't have a lot to do in the movie. Like, which makes him a little weak narratively. And while he's a strong character and a big presence, obviously for Rome, representing like the spirit of freedom, it's got a lot of characters and it's a little, it kind of doesn't work great. But there's a lot that does work really good in it. Denzell Washington's fantastic. Visuals are really great. I like a lot of the performances, even the ones that are kind of out there and wacky, like what Joseph Quinn's doing. Like, I think it's a good time, but I just don't think it's like good. It's good. It's fine. Gladiator 2 is fine, I think. Andy, what'd you think?
So my theater was packed, and it made me think like this is the like kind of take the whole family, take your dad to see kind of movie. It's kind of the two movies a year crowd, because the script is very weak. Like the plot kind of doesn't, it's a rehash, and then B, it starts to not really make sense in the second half. And our characters aren't very well thought out. Like when you think back to the first Gladiator, we had a very clear, simple story. We had epic characters, like the palace intrigue and the palace drama was as interesting as the gladiatorial scenes in the original film, and that's what's missing in Gladiator II is the drama between our characters, between like there's almost too many people. We don't get enough time with the crazy twin emperors. They're like, why are they bad? Well, they're bad because they're bad. We're not really given enough reason to not like them. And same thing even with not Pedro, sorry, Paul
Pedro
Mescal.
Pascal. Yeah, Paul
He's
Mescal.
but Paul Mescal is supposed to be like this angry. He's got a gladiator. He's a gladiator full of rage, and you never really see him be angry. He's actually pretty chill the whole movie. It doesn't really make sense. I think everyone's doing the best with what they can. The standout here is, of course, Denzell Washington, who is acting everyone under the table. I don't know how he does it because he's over the top, but not too much. I feel like Joseph Quinn's a little bit too much, but Denzell Washington just hits the notes perfectly. He's having so much fun. He's stealing every scene he's in, not even trying. He just knows the right amount to go, and he really makes this work. Without him, this movie may not work at all.
Yeah, it's a long film at 2 hours 45, or just a little shorter, and it is dense in a way that I think is unhelpful to that runtime. Like, there's a lot of characters, and most of them are pretty one note, even if they're a little complicated. Like Paul Mescal's like kind of slave turned gladiator turned hero character, well, warrior turned slave turned gladiator turned hero, like. Or Pedro Pascal's like very laughable, reluctant general, which I thought was really funny. This like general character who like he knows that things are wrong in Rome and he wants to make it right, but he just doesn't know how, while he's like conquering cities and taking people hostage in the name of these horrible twin emperors who are over the top for sure, but a welcome, I think, bolt of lightning in the movie. I at least enjoyed their streak of crazy. The best part really is, I think, Denzell Washington. I don't know. I'm with you. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he floats into these scenes and immediately lifts them up in a way. His tone is perfect. He seems to understand exactly the assignment. Tons of fun watching Denzell Washington in this movie. And it's a shame that Paul Mescal doesn't get more to do, but being a gladiator prisoner means like between scenes he's not in, he's literally sitting in a cell for the whole runtime. He's doing nothing but sitting there waiting until he gets called in to fight somebody, and then he goes back to sitting. It's a shame. Like, it doesn't need to be that way. And it doesn't make a lot of sense in the script because he has multiple people that visit his cell, often under like cover of night, and they've like bribed the guards to like get in there and have a private conversation with our gladiator. And it's like, maybe y'all should have done the opposite. Maybe y'all should have got him in the movie more, like instead of leaving him and having to get other characters to sneak their way into a scene with Paul Mescal. Like, and he just doesn't get that rage that's attributed to him. Like, Denzell's got these great monologues where he talks about how other purveyors of gladiators in Rome, some will look for power, strength. Others will look for like dexterity and cunning. And him, he's like rage. That's the thing that I think truly drives a society. There's these big lofty ideals about like how things should work in Rome, and they start with this guy. Yes, this guy, Denzell Washington, picking this gladiator. Yeah, Dream of Rome. Very, very Megalopolis coded, actually. A dream of a new Rome, a new republic, right? But it just doesn't come through. Like, he doesn't get the space and he doesn't get the drama to make that effective. What he does get is the action, which is where Gladiator 2's bread and butter is. The combat, the Colosseum stuff, pretty much all rock solid. Couple goofy effects, though I would argue those are funnier than they are distracting, and that can enhance a film because a good laugh is always welcome. Usually welcome.
Yeah, there's a great scene where Denzell, his character, strolls in, and he's made some strategic bets with some characters because they like to gamble, and this is worked out in his favor. And there's a point where he's so friendly to someone, but also incredibly threatening. Like you owe me a ton of money, right? But it's in the like he's so nice and so friendly, but so threatening, and it's like, how's he do that? How's he find that perfect balance? And it works so well. And I think again, Paul Mescal's doing the best with what he's been given. He looks great on screen. Like he's got the rugged look. He's got the Roman nose. Like the man looks perfect on screen. Unfortunately, this character is not very well written. Same thing with Pedro Pascal. I do think that this might help propel Paul Mescal into, I don't know, maybe doing some action movies or something, because he has several action scenes, and it's like, well, maybe he could be the next guy that, like a Chris Hemsworth, does combat, shoots guns, fights people, but he's got the acting chops too. So we'll see. I think it's a good audition for him to maybe get into the action genre.
I was thinking watching this, I was thinking in my head watching his performance, like this might be the first time I've actually seen Paul Mescal in a movie when he's not like a disaffected small town 30-something white gay lover, right? Like he's just like he actually at least has one romantic relationship in this film, and it's with a woman. And I was like, I think it's the first time I've seen him like dating a chick in a movie.
Yeah.
That's nuts to me. But hey, shout out to his performance. Like I said, I think the movie's funnier than it is intended. Napoleon also has this effect. I think sometimes these lofty drama lines just don't quite go over the way they're meant to, and Ridley Scott will pick an odd take. It reminds me of like that scene in Napoleon when Joaquin Phoenix is screaming about boats out of nowhere. He's like, you told me they had boats. So goofy, over the top, doesn't really work. Gladiator 2 has a few of these moments as well, and some of the best ones come out in the combat. There is a scene with these CGI baboons that people have been roasting all weekend because they just do not look good. There's a combat scene on boats with sharks in the water, which is hilarious. They're like these CGI sharks swimming around like a James Bond villain would have, like with lasers attached to their heads. Like a lot of that stuff's real goofy, but it's ultimately fun. And like when the movie slows down and manages to be tranquil, I think in the best moments where Gladiator 1 was, when Paul Mescal like sticks his sword in the sand and like dusts off his hands, like just like Russell Crowe does and is as seen in the poster and a lot of the marketing stuff for this. I think our YouTube thumbnail has that. That stuff works good. Like when it slows down and like really takes a moment, I think it's good. But otherwise, like it's just kind of full and a little like misguided. I think it just comes from a script that just needed a little bit of fine tuning. Maybe pull a character or two out, expand it a little bit more, give Paul Mescal more to do. Like I think you got something going on here.
Yeah, another big issue with the movie and plot is that it kind of is about a whole lot of nostalgia, a whole lot of member berries. I was reminded a lot of the Force Awakens kind of thing. Like, hey guys, remember this? Because like, if you've seen the first Gladiator, a bunch of stuff that you've seen in that movie turns up in this. Paul Mescal does the he picks up the sand, rubs it in his thing. He has a couple of executions that are in the first movie. Strength and honor, hold. And just hitting all the classic. He wears for some not really well explained reason, they still have Maximus armor and sword, and eventually you see Paul Mescal wearing it. You see this in the trailer, so that's not a spoiler. But it's just like, yeah, you guys remember Maximus? You remember Gladiator 1? Remember everything you liked in there? Here it is again. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah. Do you remember Captain America? He fought in the war. He stood for something. But can I wear his armor? No, what could I don the A? Yeah, it's a bit of like throwing on the same armor, but like still a good time. I do want to mention the stuff from Gladiator 1 because I have not seen Gladiator 1 in a real long time. Dr. Draper watched it before me, before the like you watched it before going to see this. I did not. I was just going in like, let's just see what Ridley Scott brings to me, a disaffected viewer who has not watched Gladiator 1 in a long time. And the film opens with a really striking title credit sequence. It's really great, actually. It's like this hand painterly looking oil painting sequence that flashes back through previous scenes in the film, but with a really great bit of the score. Like fantastic work, really gets you into it, reminds you of some of the previous stuff you saw, striking imagery. And then the second half of this movie gets really into old Gladiator stuff. And that was where I started to fall off because I was thinking, wait a second, is this somebody... Like, they introduce a character on screen with, like, a big flashbacky flair, some music, as they walk in. And I'm like, who am I looking at? Who is that? And, of course, it's a character from the first film. But I didn't remember that because I haven't seen it in a long time. And, yeah, a lot of, like, big lines, like when they say strength and honor for the 30th time in the script, it's like, okay, pretty confident this was in the first one, and I'm just not remembering it that good. Like, a lot of the big visuals from Gladiator 1 are echoed perfectly here. And, like, I guess the themes are, too. But you just don't get the same energy. Like, I saw people talking about how, boy, Russell Crowe really did manage to capture lightning in a bottle with his performance in the first one. And that's just kind of not here. In fact, there is a quite a Maximus-shaped hole in this film, really. And yeah. Paul Mescal does a good job, I think, to step to it. But it is ultimately in the shadow of its former self. Gladiator 2, I don't think, is bigger than Gladiator 1. I think it's secondary in every nature. And that's, it's okay if you're a big Gladiator fan, but I just wished it had a little bit more zing, something, a little bit more pop, a tighter script, two less
Yeah.
characters.
It also it doesn't really have the score doesn't do very much. The score from the first one, it may have won best score. Uh but the score by Hans Zimmer is a classic. Lots of very familiar themes. The big battle at the beginning of the first movie, just lots of very memorable stuff. And you get some rehashes of that, but you don't get anything new, nothing to chew on. It's a different composer. So like the score is lacking as well.
Yeah. I'm running out of things to say about it, I think. So we should probably wrap it up. Any other thoughts or recommendations, Andy?
I'm ready.
Andy, would you recommend Gladiator 2?
I would recommend it to fans of the first film. If you're a little on the fence, I would say save it for streaming or watch the highlights later on YouTube. The performances are really strong. That's what definitely carries the film. The action is pretty good. Some of the CGI doesn't look great, and but the script and plot is just kind of all over the place. It's a rehash of the first movie, and then it just kind of goes off the rails, and it's like four different movies by the end of it. So I would say probably save it for streaming unless you're really excited for it.
Yeah, I think Gladiator 2 is definitely fun in a theater, but I don't think it mandates making the time for 3 hours at the theater. Like I get the chase for a bigger experience, and Gladiator 2 is bigger, but I can't say it's better. I think it's a good time, and I think when it comes to streaming, you should watch it. When it shows up on HBO or Netflix or whatever on the front page for a week, and Gladiator is like number 2 in the world, absolutely. Throw it on. You'll have a great time. They might even have Gladiator 1 there, so you could watch it right next to it, right? Double feature. But like on its own, it's fine. Gladiator 2 is fine. And that's not bad. Doesn't mean Ridley Scott's wash. My man's got time. But it's fine. Gladiator 2 is fine. And with that, we should move into our December preview. Some upcoming stuff. December's kind of stacked this year. And like I said at the top, Andy has done an incredible job of carving out each week things that are coming out. We don't have like a musical bumper or anything attached to this, right, Andy?
No, we need one.
We do need some kind of
But
holiday
the
preview or
monthly
something.
preview, yeah.
The monthly preview. Perfect.